Right.
But are you definitely going to endorse? Do you think it's important that you endorse before this primary? Or is there a point where you might say, you know what? Boy, this field's a bit too fragmented. I'm going to let the voters sort it out.
Well, I may do that, but I doubt that. My promise has been not to endorse before the debate in South Carolina, which will be on the 25th. So if I were to endorse, it would not be before the 26th of February, which will be 3 or 4 days before the primary.
How does one earn your endorsement? What are you looking for?
I'm not looking for anything. I know if I were endorsed, I know exactly who I would endorse, and I've known that for some time now.
Oh, that's interesting. So you know who you're going to endorse. Could that person lose your endorsement in the next couple of weeks?
I guess that person could, but I'll just wait and see. I've got a 1, 2, 3. I know who's number one on my list. If number one does something that I think is unseemly, I may go to number 2.
Does it matter how these folks have performed in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada to you? Do you think that poor showings in other states will have an impact on your decision?
No, sir, not my decision. It may have some impact on the candidates, but not me. I know all of these people. I've known them from a long time. I'm not going to judge any one of them on any one performance or any one result, or maybe even 2 results. I know these people, and I know exactly how they shape up with me.
When these candidates call you up, I'm sure they're asking you advice on the issues that they should be talking about in South Carolina. So let me ask you this. Whether it's Pete Buttigieg, whether it's Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Amy Klobuchar, when they ask you what issues should they be talking about to South Carolina Democrats, what do you tell them?
I'll tell them what I think they need to know. I've talked to all of them. Every candidate that's called me and asked for my advice, I've given it. The candidates that call and ask for me to do appearances with them, I've done it. I went to my alma mater, South Carolina State, did an evening event with Elizabeth Warren. I've done events with Cory Booker. I have done an event with Joe Biden. And I've done them with Amy, well, not an event, but I've met with Amy Klobuchar. I know them, and I am going to be as helpful as I can possibly be. I have 2 daughters who are very active down in South Carolina, and a grandson is very active. My grandson is working very hard for Mayor Pete. I have 2 daughters, his mother and the other daughter. They are working very hard for any candidate that asks their help.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.